What's up, guys? So I'm going to be sharing some of my thoughts on the new Pokemon Legends Z-A game. I've got almost about 12 hours in the game, so this is just my first impressions, what I've noticed so far. This is going to be as spoiler-free as possible. I'm going to make the assumption that if you're watching this video, you at least know a little something about the game, so, don't be upset if you see something you don't intend to. It's just the way that it goes. So, anyways, I'm going to talk about a couple of the things that I like, some of the things that I think are kind of interesting or departures from the way that Pokemon has traditionally done stuff. And I want to preface all this by saying all this stuff, of course, is just my opinion. I've been a lifelong Pokemon fan and fan of the series, but I'm also not a Nintendo crony, and I'm not going to praise everything that they do because some of it, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you would like to play along and hang out with the community while we're actually playing the game over the next couple of weeks, you can come and hang out with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MattGeeks, and hopefully we'll see you guys there. All right. So first thing that I want to talk about is the map a little bit and the wild areas. So this is kind of the overworld area of the map. There's more to it than just these ground level areas and things like that. That's all I'm really gonna say. You guys have probably seen from some of the like pre-game footage and stuff that you can also get on some of the rooftops in the areas as well. You can see there's a bunch of little stores around and stuff like that, which is cool. And I like the fact there are a lot of different like stores and clothing stores and cafes and stuff like that that you can go in. Because if you guys remember in Scarlet and Violet, there was a whole bunch of buildings. You could go into almost none of them. So I think it's cool. There's a lot of, areas around that you can actually kind of walk around and explore and stuff. I will say that some of these buildings and stuff, though, are kind of duplicative. So like this place, for example, this cafe, whatever, there's a bunch of different kind of cafes and things like that that are around that are all kind of similar in design. They don't necessarily offer you much other than it just being like an area. And, a lot of times you'll have an NPC out in front. Most of the time you'll find like a side quest or something like that here. So aside from the actual like points of interest, you have these different numbered wild areas on the map, right? And so it'll show you like the Pokemon that are in that area, and it gives you a completion score based off what you've seen. So it could be like day or nighttime that affects whether you see something or you don't, or it's just a more rare Pokemon to appear there. You can see like that one is obviously Gibble. And I haven't seen that one yet in that area, or I haven't, been there whenever it was, right? So you have all these kind of different areas that you'll have access to as you play, but these areas, generally speaking, are kind of small. So this is one of the things that I think is a big difference, and something that a lot of people might not necessarily like. Is that these areas are kind of tiny, and I could go around and kind of have this Legend Arceus style of gameplay where I can throw in and catch and do all that, which I personally like. I like that format of catching. I'm a huge fan of Legend Arceus, so I'm cool with that. But you can see that the area itself it's pretty small, right? It's not like you're running around in the wild like in Sword and Shield or in Arceus, right? So let's go ahead and jump over to another one just to show you like a couple more. Some of the areas, in addition to the ground area, you can actually get on roofs and stuff like that as well inside of it. This area, for example, it's just a big old circle, right? And you've got the Pokemon that are inside. So, I don't really know how I feel about it. I mean, I'm biased, I have to say, to the big open world. There's Pokemon everywhere. You have this vast, like, giant area that you can go around and explore. I just think that's cool. That resonated with me in a lot of the other games and kind of gives us that, like, Pokemon meets, like, Zelda Breath of the Wild kind of just open world, so you're really immersed in it. So, it's okay. I don't dislike it. I don't particularly like it either. I'm kind of neutral about it. There are also Pokemon in and around the city that you can catch. So, like, I probably can't find one right here in this moment, but, like, there was a trash can that I saw that had a little Dedenne sitting next to it. You could catch the Dedenne, or there's, like, a Pansage in a tree somewhere, right? So, there's little stuff like that that you can do and interact with. So, that's kind of what I've seen so far as overworld Pokemon go. You can also get certain Pokemon through the side missions. So I won't say anything more about that. Those are all pretty straightforward. If you play the side quests, which are these little small icons here, you're going to run into them pretty much no matter what. All right. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is probably like the biggest thing for this game that I think a lot of people are on the fence about, and that is the battling system and kind of how all that works, right? So you can see down on my bottom left, I've got my current team, and you can send out and recall one Pokemon or the other. Of course, we have Mega Evolution in this game, which I think we can all agree is freaking sick. I love traveling around with my giant, Purunga-looking Mega Gyarados. That's just awesome to me. And there's a ton of different Mega Evolutions that are available, which is awesome. But with that being said, and when it comes to actually like battling and attacking and stuff, I'll just attack one of these stones so you can see. No PP on any of the moves. You just have kind of like baseline attacks that go in and do damage to the Pokemon, and then there's a cooldown for those moves. That expires, and then you're able to use the move again, right? So you can call back Pokemon at any time. Mega Evolution will stay as it is or until the timer runs out, which is kind of neat. And you can call those Pokemon in and out. So one of the things that this game has introduced is kind of like the Z-A like level, right? So you can see on the left the Royale rank, which is something you guys will get into if you play the game. It's something that kind of like a tower structure, like if you will, not an actual tower, but like the hierarchy of ranks in the game. I'm not going to say too much about it, 'cause there's a couple of like little things and twists that I think are kind of strange about it. And you'll know what that is if you play the game and actually get there. Sorry, I have to be vague here. I promised a spoiler-free thing, so there you go. You guys that have played, you know what it is. But anyways, that's kind of how the battling structure works in the hierarchy, and you have different things that become available to you as you climb that hierarchy. But when you actually get into the battles themselves and you start fighting other trainers, in my opinion, I think that the pacing of the battles is fun because it's fast and it forces you to be. And I'll show you right now what that looks like. So let's just go in here. We'll battle some of these just wild Pokemon in here, right? So you can choose to battle the wild ones if you want, or you can just try to catch them outright. But I'll go ahead and use an attack on this. We're obviously going to bulldoze this Hippopotas or whatever. But so when you have like the single Pokemon out, especially in these kind of environments where you could have multiple different wilds attacking you at once, that can get kind of fun. But a lot of times if it's just like a one-to-one trainer battle, what ends up happening is, you notice you might have a type disadvantage or advantage depending on what it is, and it's like, okay, cool, now I'm going to switch to this one. And so it ends up just being kind of like you're juggling Pokemon based off what your super effective moves are, which like I guess makes sense because even in the game you'd be like, oh, okay, next battle, cool, I'm gonna switch to my my type advantaged like Pokemon, right? But obviously in this game it's way easier to do that. For me, when I've played previous games before, I'll play the Pokemon games on set, and the main reason is just because I think it's more fun that way. I don't want to have that easy advantage when I go into the battle and say, okay, cool, I'm just going to switch to my super effective one and then just start destroying the other trainer, right? It kind of takes away some of the value of it to me. So even though it's fast-paced, that makes it fun, but I also feel like the battles don't have as much weight to it. It's like if you played like any of the previous games, and even in Arceus, which had a different battle system with the agile and strong attacks, or like whatever the case was, the battles still felt like they meant something. Like when you're about to get into a battle with like Cynthia or something like that, or like you fight Cyrus and Diamond and Pearl or whatever it is, like you have that moment of, sick, here comes like a big battle, right? And especially if you're, appropriately leveled for it, the fights can actually be kind of challenging, right? So, that's just my feeling on it, right? I don't dislike it, but I do feel like it takes away from that traditional impact of, cool, here's a big battle that's coming up, right? And even like the promotion battles, which you use to get to higher ranks in the game, they just don't feel that impactful. It's like, cool, I just grinded out a bunch of trainers to get the points to do whatever, right? So anyways, that's my take on that. And I'll show you guys briefly what those trainer areas look like. You might have saw it just on my screen. It popped up. The sun's about to set. The trainer area or the battle area opens up in the nighttime in the overworld. And so you only have a set limited amount of time that you can go into those areas to accumulate points that will allow you to challenge for your next rank up match. So that's kind of how that process works. And there's a bunch of different trainers in there. It's great for kind of just like quickly grinding through, leveling for your team. But to me, it kind of just feels like auto battling, like in Scarlet and Violet, when you would walk up on like a horde and you just send your best Pokemon in there to just go wipe out a whole population of, Horsey or something like that. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole system is kind of like an auto battle kind of thing. Even though you're choosing the attacks and moving in and out and doing those things, it just doesn't feel the same to me. So let's go ahead and jump over to that trainer area, and I'll kind of show you guys how that one works too. Alright, so the battle zone's been activated. It's nighttime. This is a particular zone on the map that opens up. So if I open up my map here, we'll go and find it. It looks just like this. Let's go ahead and shoot over there. Alright, so here is the actual battle zone. So whenever we go inside, there's a few things that happen. You can see you can kind of like climb around. There's different areas that are in the environment that you can access different stuff. The prize medals basically end up giving you like extra money and stuff whenever you're done. But we also have these special like challenge cards, right? So this one is sneak up and start a battle before the opponent spots you. You notice that this one is 0 out of 10. The higher up in these ranks that you get, the more these challenges kind of require of you. It gets a bit grindy to me personally, but you get bonus points for doing it, which is way faster than just waiting around to get the points you need. If you look in the top right, it says 0 wins right now because I just walked in, and then I have almost 19,000 out of 35,000. The 35,000 is what I need to be able to do the next rank up match. So if I want to accept that kind of bounty, if you will, I can do that. And then you can see the trainers that are around in the overworld, and they'll have a Pokemon out. So one of the things you can do that's kind of interesting is you can sneak up on these trainers and do kind of like a sneak attack on them. So for example, the bounty we just got kind of relies on a sneak attack. I can target it and send my Pokemon over there to go over there and, attack it and get an advantage in the battle. For this one in particular, we're going to destroy it because my Crocodile is just absolutely nuts. I got this early on in the game. So he's just a tank. But anyway, you guys saw, like, that battle was super quick. Obviously, my Pokemon is way stronger than that team was, so we just run through it, right? But with that being said, it kind of just gets old to have to go through here and do that like 30 different times, right? Just to make it through the area and get the points to rank up. It's a simple kind of like system, right? And you are getting battles and you are, fighting trainers and stuff like that, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel as good to me as like, you think about like, oh, like we're going to go to Victory Road and fight like a slaughterhouse of trainers that are on the same level of us and it'd actually be challenging. That's just not the case, like, for me so far. So in a second, I'll talk a little bit about like the alpha Pokemon and stuff like that and kind of how I feel like that also changes the dynamic. But anyways, for now, you guys can kind of see how this process works. This in particular is just kind of grindy, and I don't particularly like it. I like the idea of having like a ladder of ranks to kind of climb up of. Like, that's cool. I mean, you get stuff along the way for doing that, but I just don't necessarily like the way that you have to go about doing it. more than anything, the reason why I come in here and do a lot of these battles and try to fight every trainer is for Pokedex entries. Just because I like to do completionist type things for these Pokemon games anyway. I like filling out the decks and getting everything, and so, some of the trainer encounters and stuff, I'm sure you can, fill out a deck slot and know what's there. I think there's like a little over 200 in the Pokedex for this game. I think I've caught like around like 80 or 90 maybe of the slots, so I'll do it just for that in addition to, but again, it's you guys can kind of see how that all works out. Next thing that I want to talk about are the actual like alpha Pokemon in the game. So this Krookodile, for example, you can see right next to his level there, the little alpha symbol on it. These are pretty easy to find. The Gyarados I have here, also an Alphamon. You can find these very early in the game, in the wild areas, and they're pretty easy to catch too. If you guys played Legends Arceus, I personally feel like when I look back on it that when you went into the first area even and you saw like the Alpha Snorlax or the Alpha Rapidash, there was going to be a pretty decent chunk of time before you could reasonably catch any of those. Even if you went up to it and just started spamming it with every specialty type of Pokeball that like you had, you were not going to catch it. So, that's just something that I feel like is different with this game, is that the ease of being able to get those alphas really early on ends up kind of making you really OP very early on too, right? Like, I caught like a level 31 Magikarp Alpha, which is the Gyarados that I have now, when my team was like level 14 or 15, and I caught it on my first try with the Pokeball. So I think that in itself is just kind of absurd. Like, I think it just gives you this opportunity to just become like monstrously strong in the beginning, which again further takes away from like the complexity of the battles, because it's like if I can just have my Gyarados and waterfall through every single person on somebody's team, then okay, cool, I didn't have to worry about that battle at all. I didn't have to actually fully utilize like my whole team. So the alphas are really strong, and I don't know if it was intended for it to be that way or whatever the case may be, but the alphas are dumb strong. If you get them on your team early on in the game, you're probably just going to run through all the other trainers that you come across. So, it's in the game, so, use it if you want. I'm using it. I think they're cool. Whatever. Just something I wanted to point out. Alright, you guys, so that's kind of my thoughts based off what I've played on the game so far. Again, these are just my opinions, just my feelings based off the game and the other ones that I've played. I enjoy it. I love Pokemon games in general, so I'm never going to complain about having a new game in my hands from Nintendo on this. There's just some things that are different and that are, kind of departures from the way that maybe you would traditionally think about Pokemon games. But in general, I enjoy it. I'm not here to tell you should rush out and go buy a Switch 2 or rush out and go buy ZA. It's your decision based off what you like and, how you want to play the game. But either way, I am enjoying it so far. I'll say that. There are things about it that I think are a little weird. Or maybe weird is the wrong word, but I think just like lend themselves to kind of a diminished experience playing it. For me, at least. So, take those things into consideration, whether you play it or not. And let me know in the comments what you guys think. What have you enjoyed? What have you not? Is there anything that stands out to you? And again, if you guys enjoy this kind of content, or if you enjoy Pokemon Legends Z-A, come and hang out with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MacGeeks. And we'll see you guys there, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.